Walk with me. It's a soothing Sunday morning. That jazzy music you might hear in the background might not sound soothing to you, but this is from KRCL 90.9 FM from Salt Lake City, one of my favorite all-time community radio stations. It's been supporting my health and well-being for decades. You can stream it online, krcl.org. Set my items down. Good morning. Get this at a better angle. Trying something new today. Trying something new. There I am. There you are. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Do you have a yummy beverage as well to join me this morning? And I feel like I better speak up. I have an alto voice that I'm often told that to speak up that others can't hear me. Good morning. My favorite Mickey. This is one of my favorite Mickey mugs. What is your favorite mug, or do you have many? I have a collection, though. I'm one of those Disney loving adults that some people get annoyed with. I don't know why it's annoying. It's my own business. It brings me joy. So they are. In my dark bitter coffee, that is one of the only stimulants and my own substance of choice as an adult that I allow myself to have. Caffeine, to a degree, works well for me, and I do moderate that. There are times that I will give myself a fast from caffeine if I find that it's not working well for me. Do you still enjoy caffeine? That is a tricky one for those of us. By the way, I will introduce myself. My name is Tiffany Anderson. Welcome. This is my Anderson Therapeutics Aging Well channel, and I am the founder of Anderson Therapeutics. Back to the caffeine. My doctors and I have had conversations about caffeine in the past, and there are times that I have given myself a complete break from caffeine. And this is not one of them, obviously. 1 or 2 cups of coffee every morning are working well for me right now. I am very conscious of when I could have any additional caffeine and the time of day that it's a cutoff period. Otherwise, I won't sleep later in the evening. It will cause problems for me. That is part of the reason I wanted to talk to you today, is knowing ourselves, knowing your own chronic conditions, and addressing the symptoms. Self-care is kindness. I made another post to put up a video about that topic, and that has struck a chord with a few of the people that I'm working with. Most of the individuals in my line of work, I tend to find myself that I'm working with women more often. And in my field, in my over the course of my career, I have tended to specialize in helping adults better manage conditions that are more specific to women. And that made sense for me to specialize and study since I'm a woman. And as someone who has been a caretaker, I have typically cared for older female relatives or just found myself in fields where most of the clients, even patients, when I was in a clinical setting, though I am a health educator, I am not a clinician. I work in the field of alternative health. I have done so since 1996, and that allowed me to work within not only a clinical setting, but also in physical therapy, in sports medicine, as well as high-end medical type spas, and have a private clientele that we're focusing on not only the stress management aspect of where alternative therapies can be useful, also the aspect of alternative care that is a marriage that melds Western and Eastern philosophies, which are usually a lot of the alternative therapies, such as Reiki. I am a Reiki master teacher and have practiced that and received it for decades and found it highly therapeutic and assistive, especially for those who aren't able to receive a more aggressive type of touch. When I offered Reiki in a clinical setting, it was at a cancer institute and for patients who were in hospice or at stages in their level of care where touch was contraindicated and would not have helped them and certainly wasn't recommended. I've received a few questions that as an adult who is aiming to age well, and for whatever reason that you might be here, whether you are a caretaker, a healthcare provider, a person who is managing their own chronic conditions, I have a wide variety of experiences and levels of expertise that I am bringing to the platform in order to engage and share a lot of the things that I have either practiced in the field or have been very grateful that I've learned a number of methods and picked up tools and resources over the years that when I became severely ill, that I was able to take better care of myself and become the good patient that physicians hope for. That I I hope you are a good patient. That that might seem annoying. I've said that to people in the past and asked them about um, the relationship they have with their healthcare provider and whether they're following the recommendations. That's what I mean when I say being a good patient. And it's some of the responses I will get, and I look at body language a lot more than the words and any canned responses that I get, because it seems that there are times where there's a defense mechanism that clicks in, and a drawing back, or a grimace, or furrows in the brow, that type of thing. And it's almost as if the thought of being a good patient is that they're suddenly a child and being scolded and told that they're wrong or bad. And I empathize and understand. And that to me is saying that there's an inward resistance and a hesitation, and the acknowledgement that our chronic conditions, our level of health right now, has a lot to do with choices we've made in our lives. Many are not. Though, as we get older, and whether the health conditions that you're living with have been genetic or something that you've lived with your entire life, and it's just that degenerative path, there is an element of an awareness of realizing that, could I have taken better care of myself, and how would that have changed where I am now? That's natural. And a healthy reflection, though it can also take us on a deep dive into blame, guilt, resentment, frustration. And while grieving is a very important part of acknowledging our level of health, staying in that place for too long is a sinking, depressive place to be, which will not allow for being accountable and realizing there may have been some poor choices. There may have been a defining moment. I think about those things not overly often, only because I was given a time to grieve when I became seriously ill, and questioned everything that I thought I knew as a health educator, as someone who has worked as a coach, as an instructor, as a patient advocate, and even heard harsh comments from people that I worked with that weren't really intentionally being unkind, though they were expressing their own frustrations when they were grieving along with me, though in answer to their own lack of self-care, they would say, well, Tiffany, you got really sick. You were taking care of yourself and exercising, eating well, all that type of thing, and you got really sick, so what's the use? That's a horrifying conclusion to me, because even though I was questioning myself when I became ill, and I went on a crazy medical mystery tour and a lot of unknown etiology. We don't know what's wrong with you. Let's try this. I also felt comforted by the fact that the steps I did have in place, and the routines, the healthcare practices, such as daily exercise, I have always been very active. And the thought of enjoying activity or moving my body just general sport of the thought that, oh, that didn't matter. That was ridiculous to me. Of course it mattered. Why I wanted to talk about all of this today is that a week ago I started a 10-day nutritarian challenge. I'm gonna have another sip of my coffee. Oh, talking and then you get parched, you know? The Nutritarian Challenge is by Dr. Joel Fuhrman, and this is a dietary challenge. Very simple in my mind because I have been following a plant-based diet since 2016. And the Nutritarian Challenge, which I received in an email, I'm not being sponsored, was to add a large leafy green salad with specific ingredients and a seed-based dressing to either my lunch or my dinner for 10 days. I started it a week ago today, and along with some others who wanted to join me who aren't following a plant-based diet, just to see how we feel and what happens. After the first couple of days, I was surprised at how better I slept and the amount of energy that I have in the morning. And I've always been a morning person throughout my adult life. Waking up early is part of my mode of living. It's a natural state. I rarely, if ever, need an alarm. And as I've gotten older, I've noticed that I get up a little bit earlier. And that works well for me. I like that I'm sleeping deeply, and I tend to conk out with some guidance. So I have a sleep routine, that sleep hygiene. It's been quicker simply by adding this salad and the additional plants that go in the salad. Dr. Fuhrman talks about G-BOMBS. It's an acronym, and he says his approach is to make sure you're eating greens, berries, onion, mushrooms, beans, and seeds. So those items, basically any plants, though, making sure that those items are in your diet every day, which I hadn't done that in the past. I follow the starch solution. Though this type of a salad, especially since it's getting a lot colder. I'm in Utah, and we're anticipating a very cold, ideally, I hope a lot of snow. We need the water so bad. We've been having a lot of rain this month, and I'm someone who I love vegetables, though as it gets colder, I really like to have hot meals. That feels better for me. By eating a big raw salad, I've noticed with digestive, that's been a bit of a switch. So I am being conscious about how much caffeine, because I'm sure you all know that coffee is definitely a stimulant for your colon and can aid digestion. I don't have any digestive disorders, though having a lot of added roughage, more than what I had been eating. I've been supplementing nutritionally by having like a turmeric ginger tea and adding some abdominal massage, only to address things like bloating and those type of issues, especially since the people that I'm pairing up with to do this challenge are eating, um, some are the standard American diet, some are more on the deep dive of high protein, those type of things. And so as we're having these conversations, we're just looking at how our body's responding just to something as basic as adding a big salad, either to my lunch or to dinner. It's been interesting. I'm enjoying it, and I will continue that. And I will put in the description a link to Dr. Fuhrman's website if you're interested in learning more about his work, as well as Dr. John McDougall. He passed away last year, though he is the gentleman, he and his wife Mary, who is a registered nurse. They created the starch solution decades ago. It was something that I was unfamiliar with, even though I have taught nutrition at an academic level. The starch solution was a surprising dietary approach to me, and I learned about it after watching the film Forks Over Knives. It came to me at a perfect time because when I did become ill back in 2009, between 2009 and 2011, I went on this roller coaster of, it was ridiculous. The amount of procedures and tests and lab work that specialists, my own doctor, and other facilities put me through, and not knowing what was going on. There's still a lot of unknown etiology answers that it was nuts. Though the starch solution changed my life, saved my life, and improved my life in ways that I, at that time, because of the health issues I was facing, I wasn't sure I was going to ever be able to recover and reclaim the health that I had as a very active person. Here I am today in 2025, and I have the quality of life that I am content with. Is it where I thought I was going to be as a younger woman? No, certainly not. Though that is the part of aging well that I want to speak to help other women, gentlemen too. I don't want to discourage if there's any men out there who also want to age well, though I know a lot more about female health, and will do my best to speak to everyone. I received a few questions just about what does aging well mean? And that's certainly a very personal question, and one that evolves over time. My thoughts of aging well when I was in my 40s is certainly a lot different now that I've turned 60. And what I hope to accomplish, what I want out of my life. When I was younger, raising a family, when I was still partnered, the thought of aging well looked very different. And as someone who took on a caretaking role, I focused a lot of my energy outward. now that I have been an empty nester for a very long time and I am no longer partnered, and I have embraced the fact that I am taking a solo journey. And I'm happy about that. That is another question that I receive from women that I'm working with who are either close to my age or a bit older and did not want to have a solo journey, and they're frightened and uncertain and have not had much time to take care of themselves. It's always been taking care of others. And that is the time for a woman, anyone who has been a caretaker and focused outwards, to look within. I experienced that when I became ill. It's similar to that empty nester feeling, or if you've, I shouldn't even say if, when. Most of us have experienced the loss of someone, whether it's a breakup, a divorce, a death, that there has been someone who has been a significant part of our life, and then they're gone. That loss is something that we expect because we're on a journey. We're on a journey in life. The birth, life, death cycle is a very natural path that we're all on. That doesn't mean that loss doesn't hurt, that it's significant, and depending on the circumstances, can be overwhelming and feel unexpected. There's that time of shock, of despair, and honoring and taking time through that grief is also a very personal, how we grieve and how we address loss, even if it's a loss that perhaps was, let me give the example of a destructive relationship, of a partnership, whether it's a business, romantic, friendship, that relationship is no longer serving either party, that it's painful, it's empty, there's no resolution in sight, that change is inevitable and more than likely wanted. There's still going to be the loss. There's been times where I've outgrown a relationship and perhaps the other person hasn't felt that. And that's an uncomfortable place to be as well, when you realize that I don't want to be in this relationship any longer. Those are skills, those are opportunities. And as we become mature adults, especially if life has taken you to a place where you're facing your mature years on your own, I encourage you to think back at all of the growth and the life experiences that have brought you this far, and acknowledge all of the opportunities, whether you're labeling them as good, bad, ugly, sad, joyful, stupendous, whatever adjective, as opportunities to better understand yourself, aging well, and self-care, self-love. That is crucial as we are maturing. And I've I've lived in Utah my entire life, so my frame of reference is about being an adult female in the US and how I envision maneuvering the healthcare system, being able to afford to live well on my own, have a quality of life that not only I can afford, though one where I want to remain independent. That's where any time where if my brain, my emotions, my ego wants to take me onto a deep dive and delve into the past or dredge up memories that are painful, it's as though I need that snap to bring me back and realize that I have more important things to focus on and consider in order for me to stay present. That's another way to hold myself accountable. And I wonder how are you taking care of yourself in order to stay present, which will enable you to plan for your future, especially if you're aging solo. It's different, and it's a large part of our population, and one that when I read articles many times I see too much negativity, and that irritates me. I feel that, I mean, I don't want to get caught up in a everything's wonderful, though I certainly don't want to have a woe is me moment either. As women who have a wealth of experiences, accomplishments, and skills, there's still so much that we bring to the table, and just because we're no longer partnered or the children have come and gone, and not having someone directly in your life, in your home, does not make you a vacuum. It doesn't mean that you're inadequate or less than or need to be set up on a date or anything. That and perhaps I get more of that because I live in a very conservative area. I get more looks and talks of pity, which really irritate me. I'm very independent, and even when I was partnered, I still traveled on my own. I did a lot of things on my own. I don't erase my identity or feel that my existence relies on others. I don't step into a job and feel that because this is my career right now, that everything else I've done in the past suddenly went away, and that my entire identity now is based on this job. Similarly, with a partner, if I was to become partnered in the future, which I don't envision because it's not what I want. It's not what I want. I'm really enjoying that I'm partnering with me. Imagine that. I have fallen in love with myself. And that is something that I wasn't raised to do. That wasn't encouraged. That wasn't even a conversation. That wasn't even a thought as a young woman, as a girl, as a teenager, even a young mom. I was raised to care. I was raised to look to service, to caring for others. There's nothing wrong with that. I also feel that there's a gap when self love and focusing on yourself is still seen as selfish. And that I disagree with. That's just nonsense. Self care is essential, especially as an older woman. If you're living on a fixed income, I have been working multiple jobs since I was 15 years old. I didn't drop out of school. I just had side jobs. I was a babysitter. I had little side jobs. I will continue to do so for as long as I possibly can. And that is not sad. That's not, oh, how awful. No, it's not. It's the reality of incomes are lower for women. I live in a state where the wages for women are incredibly low. It's that age-old sexism, ageism, all of it. I know that for the quality of life that I want, to travel, to live independently, to be able to pay for healthcare, just general living expenses, there's a certain level of income that I will need. And based on other, regardless of whether I will have access to much Social Security, that's up in the air. And the pension that I have, that's not going to be enough for the quality of life I want to have. As a lot of you are probably experiencing now, housing prices are ridiculous. They have skyrocketed in Utah. How about your area? How are the housing prices? Aging well, taking care of myself. Those are the investments in how I feel, in and how I better manage my own chronic conditions. And I will continue to work in fields that bring me joy. I work in public health right now. I manage my website. I'm dabbling in all sorts of little projects and side jobs, and I'm a writer. Most of my work is what some would call play. It brings me joy, and yes, I receive a financial reward for that. And that allows me to take trips and pay my bills and manage my debt. The last thing I will leave you with, I've spoken to some people lately about feeling upset that people aren't acknowledging their illness, because of the symptoms, the having an invisible disability. And I understand that as well. I have artificial joints. I'm very active. I don't walk with a limp. I don't need a crutch, a cane. There were times that I did use those when I was recovering. And I am very grateful that I am at a level right now that I walk well. I can hike. There are movements that I cannot do, though I'm always surprised. Like say when I fly and I have to go through the screener because I have metal in my body, and I will hear comments from TSA security that, oh, you don't look like you have artificial joints. I'm like, well, what the hell would that look like? They're inside. That the stereotypes and the assumptions about aging, they're so ridiculous. That is another topic that I, again, to go within and focus on self-care and quieting that aspect of our ego that wants to jump to our defense, and being able to speak up, clarify if needed, or know that there's a lot of times when you're going to encounter someone as an older adult that are going to make some really ridiculous assumptions and have an extreme bias simply because of, oh, our skin looks different. Oh my goodness, there's wrinkles. Oh, wow. Um, that's ageism. That is a projection. Is it pleasant? No. Though it's not going to go away. It's how to perceive and know that that person, the one projecting all of that nonsense and that crap coming your way, and perhaps as a younger adult you did the same thing. I can certainly remember being a younger woman and looking at a much older woman and thinking horrible things, even saying them out loud, and shame on me for doing so. It's self-awareness and self-reflection, and another encouraging time for me to go within, and as I speak to others and hear their frustrations and their sorrow, to be able to empathize, commiserate, and also draw back again that we don't want to feed the fire. Don't give fuel to those who feel that they can scapegoat and mistreat an older person. And certainly a mature person who is living with illness, grief, a number of things. We all have our story, our personal life circumstance, and to carry that burden is too much added weight, too much added sorrow. I don't need that crap. Shoo, be gone, be gone, be gone, be gone. My coffee's getting a little colder now. I thank you for joining. I hadn't planned on talking as long as I did, as long as I have. This Aging Well channel is a broad topic. I have a website with resources, tips, and tools that are designed to help mature adults better manage their chronic conditions. And that website has been live since 2016. All of the material on that website is offered freely. I will put that link below. And as I move forward, I'm trying a number of different video styles, whether they're slides or walk and talk, and I guess this is called a talking head video. This is a learning curve for me. If there is a specific type of video that you like, share that with me in the comments and tell me about a topic on aging well and better managing your chronic conditions that you're interested in. I have a lot of experiences and credentials that I feel adds value, and I want to share that information. I practice what I preach, and I'm looking forward to the next step of my journey, and hope you are as well. Have a nice day. Bye.